Hi everyone. After I made my last video talking over all the clips of the horses, I thought it was actually quite a good way of letting everyone know how the horses are getting on. So I thought we'd start with Legend. So he's a 4-year-old that was in for breaking. This was actually his first time cantering. We were just meant to be going over poles, but just then he offered a canter, so I thought, well, he's feeling quite forward, so we'll ask for canter. So you see there is his first canter transition, nice and easy, and then just about here, he spooks at the echo sign. He's never spooked it before, but it's fine, didn't bother too much about that. Just kept the trot nice and forward, and he offers another canter just about here somewhere. It's fine, not going to argue with that. And then he just finds the corner quite difficult, so he went back to trot, got a nice forward trot. I was always going to ask for the transition in this corner, nice and easy. Had a bit more leg on past the sign because he wants to spook it again. Needs a bit more help around the corner to keep the impulsion. He finds the corner is quite hard. Nice and forward. And I wanted him to trot when I asked him to. It's just when he was ready. Before we got to the corner, I didn't want him to break without me asking. Very good. And a couple of days later, did his first jump. Just to keep things interesting for him. Like, he's not going to jump very much because he's just turned 4. But it's good for him just to get to grips with everything that he'll have to do in his life. He's not bothered at all. He's a very good boy. He's been pretty easy the whole way through. I think he'll probably go home in a week or 2. He's been very good boy. This is Hamish. He's a 8-year-old Exmoor pony that just arrived in for schooling. This is actually just the first time I'd ridden him, so just getting a feel for what he's like. First thing I noticed is he's not straight and he's not very supple. So you see there, like when I went to turn him, I just turn him and his head and neck goes where I want him to go, and his shoulder just goes where he wants to go. So if he wanted to go somewhere, you wouldn't actually have much say in it. So that was the first thing I really need to fix. So I'm thinking that I need to try and control his outside shoulder. He does it here as well. That you can see, like, his nose is pointing a different way to where his shoulder's going. So first thing I do is just walk, trying to get him straight. So I'm riding him off the track, and you can really see here that he wants to go back to the wall so much. There he's pushing through his outside shoulder, just keep my outside leg on and try to keep him straight. And that's all I'm trying to do. And you can really see here when he goes past the gate, like he wants to go to the gate. No, I don't want him to. And you can see there how bent he is. And that's just lack of suppleness. So I just stayed and walk. And coming around this corner here, just turn slightly early so I'm not on the track. Outside leg on. Keep him straight. Keep control of the outside shoulder. And again, you see he wants to go back to the track. Keep him off the track. Outside leg on. Nice and straight. I just do this and walk for ages until he was straight. And this was about a week later. So we've done a mixture of schooling and hacking. Again, just working on the straightness, working off the track. Doing lots of walking because he's not that fit. Lots of figures of 8, getting him to bend away from my inside leg. And he've actually picked things up really quickly. So I'm not actually asking him to go in an outline. I'm just keeping him straight, keeping control of the outside shoulder. Asking him to bend around my inside leg when I go around the corner. And just keeping the contact consistent. And then he just drops his head. So I'm not actually thinking, oh, I want him to go in an outline. I'm thinking, is he straight, is he forward? Have I got an even contact? And do I have control of the outside shoulder? And when you have all those pieces, he just drops his head. You can see, I think, around here maybe, whenever you go past the gate, he tries to drift through his outside shoulder again. And you need to have a little bit more outside leg on. But whenever he loses the suppleness, it's when his head comes up. And he just goes like stiff like a board. So then I put him back on a circle, ask him to almost leg yield a little bit away from my leg. And if he was finding it really difficult, I just go back to walk and get him soft again before I go back into trot. But yeah, the gait is his weakness. So he fell out to his outside shoulder a little bit there. So you see his nose comes up, get him straight, bit outside leg, and then get him to bend. It was a good boy. This is Glow. She's another new one that's just come in. She's a Welsh D-Cross cob in for backing. As you can see, she's quite fresh. This is actually her second time lunging. I didn't see her first time lunging, but apparently she's even worse than this. She's just not seen very much, really. This was a couple of days later. She's much more settled. Used to tack, learning voice commands. She's really clever, so she picked things up really quickly. But she's much more chilled now. Yeah. I've actually sat on her and walked her about today, and she was really good. So I think she'll be no bother. And this was just my first sit on her. So actually the day before, I didn't get on her, but I was on the mountain block, just jumping up and down. She didn't really like the noise. So he spent a whole session just jumping up and down beside her until she was fine, leaning over her. And then this day, I got on the mountain block, jumped up and down, and she wasn't bothered at all. And sat on her, and as you can see, she's not bothered. And she was actually fine when I did it, walking outside as well. This is Poppy. She was in for backing. I think by this point, she'd maybe been under saddle for about 8 weeks. She's actually gone home now, so this was her maybe a few days before she went home. Just work on the flat again. I just think about keeping her straight, asking for a little bit of softness with my inside leg. She has a habit of being tight in her neck, so I just try and get her to stretch her neck out, lengthen my reins a little bit, and then use my leg to try and get her to go forward into the contact. But yeah, she's always held her neck a little bit tight. That's just the way she's built. She has quite tight hamstrings as well. She has to stretch for her hamstrings because she's a little bit tight behind. That's just the way she moves. You can see here, I think she starts to stretch a little bit. There, that's it. She's stretching her neck down. That's what we want from her. Then she'll take bigger strides. But I mean, she's not been broken very long, so we can't expect too much of her, but that's what we want long term, is for her to just stretch her neck down. And then she just pops into canter. She's always had quite a nice canter, but she can be quite forced, just keeping her nice and relaxed and balanced and not getting in her way too much, like allowing her to go forward, keeping her straight. The main reason I like to keep them straight is because if you have control of the outside shoulder, then they won't nap and they won't develop bad habits. That's what I find anyway, so I'm really quite strict with them with their outside shoulder, and they have to be straight, even from quite a young age. I like to be in control of where they're going and not relying on my hand for steering, really using my leg to help steer. So this, I think, was just her second time jumping. And she just came to this crossbow and just popped over it, no problems. And then she goes on to do her first little course. So she's always liked jumping. I think she'll be quite a good jumper. She's got quite a powerful jump when she wants to, but then she almost scared herself a little bit because she jumps too big. So you see this jump, picks a bit of speed, jumps too big, and then she loses her balance afterwards and gets a bit upset. So just try and stay out of her way, rebalance her. That's it. And then she gets a little bit speedy because she's lost her balance. So back to trot. Just regroup, pop into canter, and just give her a little bit more instruction for this. So make her wait for the jump. And then she just pops over it nicely. And this was her a couple of days later. First in cross country. That was her first cross country jump, so she wasn't sure about it, but she still did it. Second cross country jump, much more careful. And third time, no problem. She's got quite a can-do attitude, so that's it. So she only came cross country because we had a space in Laura, but she's not sure about this jump. Really, I don't know why. A lot of the horses don't like this jump. So I just made sure she was straight, and then she just pops over it. If you're not sure about the second one, keep straight, keep the leg on. That's it. And the second time, if you're still not sure about it, just make sure she's straight, keep the leg on, let her sort it out. And then the third time, she comes and she gets her 2 strides. Much better. And then she stays in the rhythm and just go and pop another 2 jumps. Just so she gets used to putting a couple jumps together. You see, like when she had a wobble at that double, just made sure she was straight, kept my leg on, like she could pop it from a standstill. It's really small. and then she just grows in confidence as she goes round the cross country. And this was her first time. Yep, a little wobble, keep the leg on, and she was fine. And then she comes over it again. You just see like she just grows in confidence every time she jumps a jump. Like not asking too much of her, just getting her out and about. And this was her first time over the ditch. She actually wasn't sure about the ditch to start with. She needed lead over. And then once she's done it once, like she's absolutely fine. That was her first time doing it by herself. And the same with the water. Like she wasn't sure about the water. And she took a bit of persuasion, and then when she was in, she was fine. And she just walks back and forth absolutely easy as anything. So this is Rue. He's a 7-year-old sports horse that's in for schooling. Again, he's just like getting out and about. He's not done very much. He's quite green for a 7-year-old. I took him to Lindores the previous week and just jumped over some small ones. This is his first time jumping bigger fences and really putting jumps together. And again, it's through the water. I take a lot of my horses through the water over and over again because I want them to be 100%, and they'll walk, trot and canter through it because you never know what you're going to get cross country. You might get a really awkward jump in and the horse has got to be able to walk through as well as canter through. But I quite like doing trot. I find like trot's probably the one you're most likely to get. You don't want to feel like you're having to canter everything to use speed to get into the water, so you want to be able to do a bit of everything. He was a good boy through that. And then just grouping some fences together. So again, with those steps, he'd done them in walk, trot and canter. I like to walk them so that he understands where his legs have to go. And again, this was just grouping some fences together. He's got quite a good jump to him. He's just not done very much. See, he's quite clean. And again, just keep him straight. Allow him to jump in a slightly more open stride. But she actually prefers jumping like that. When he show jumps, he finds it hard to bring himself together. He'd much rather canter on this open stride. Mainly because then he doesn't have to sit and work. But there's a jump on top of this hill which I didn't think he would like. Because he's having to work all the way up this hill. But he's actually really good and he gets his legs out of the way and just pops it. He's a good boy. This is Lance. He's my own horse. He is 16.3. I have measured him. He is 16.3. I know he looks bigger, but he is 16.3. This is an exercise I've been doing with a lot of my horses. So I just have a pole on a 20-meter circle and I just keep cantering around over the pole. And then when you get a good canter, just come and pop a jump. So he'll have done this a couple of times in a circle, just getting his canter right, nice and rhythmical. And just come around, let him pop the pole. Keep the same canter, don't change it at all, and just come and let him pop over the jump. He's good at this exercise now, he's done it a few times. On Sunday we took Jin down to Selkirk for a lesson with Ian Stark. Ian really liked Jin. He said he had a good canter and a good jump, so we were just practicing riding a nice forward rhythm, and it was good practice for Jin to ride in the wet ground because he hates wet ground. And this jump coming up, going downhill, he hates these jumps. And I would have show jumped them because it's going down a hill. And Ian said, nope, just ride forward, leg on, sit back and have your reins long. And it'll let him get his legs out of the way. And you can see Jin slips and slides into it. But I just meant to keep my reins long and let him out of the way. And you see he actually jumps it well. And he came around again and he jumped it much better. And Ian said it's just because he's got a really powerful canter, he finds it hard to sit going down the hill. So in time, he'll be able to do that fine. But yeah, I hate those jumps, and so does Jim. So I'm pleased that we now have a way of coping with it. And if Ian Stark says to do it, then it must be true. But that's everything for this video. I'll hopefully make another one in about a week's time to let everyone know how all the horses are getting on, and I think we have a new arrival or two this week as well, so I'll introduce them to you as well.